Hi, everyone. Um, Thanks for joining me. I can see we've got a few people already. What I want to do, and I assume you already know this, but for those people watching the recording back, I wanted to take time to talk through how we got started with live streaming, and in particular the equipment and the decisions we've made, and the maybe I don't know about mistakes, but the things that we've learned and adjusted for. Um, Really, with a view to enabling others to be able to do their own live streams as well. For this is for British American football. So yeah, even though our plan is to, as Sport Tank, our plan is to bring more live streams, and to start getting sponsorship in that we then share the revenue with clubs with. We're never realistically going to get, own a monopoly on that. We're never going to get that big with with this part of what we do, and it makes sense, for the whole growth of the game, to enable others and then share their live stream. So that's sort of where we're coming from with this, um, with the idea of sharing this content. This was a complete learning curve, new learning curve for us, particularly me. Um, So for those of you who don't know, I run Sport Tank. It's my company, my entity, and I am the one that puts all the money into it to make it operate. So essentially, I don't know, but for a few years we've been talking about live streaming and sort of seeing how it would go. And as players of American football ourselves, a lot of the people involved in Sport Tank, we always said live streaming would be the best thing to happen to the game, for the sport. People being able to watch games back, um, and there being coverage, just like a media coverage of it. So it was something that we'd thought about for a while, and then really it was our head of media, Tebs, that sort of said, "Yeah, we should really go for it," and I sort of agreed, and that's what sort of where we got to this point where I basically watched loads of videos, did loads of um, research online, asking questions, and a lot of it was on YouTube, but then there was some stuff that was like specialist websites as well. And I just thought it made sense for us to create content that was relevant to the British American football community. But I suppose anyone that wants to do sports will probably, as in live streaming sports, will probably benefit from what we're saying. Um, just joined. Can someone TLDR me? Yeah, not me. You can watch it back, Connor. Yeah. So, so the point of this is to help enable. So, if anyone's got any questions while I'm going, please feel free to ask. You can see the comments pop up on the screen as I'm talking. My plan is to sort of share um, the the process. What did we go through, what were we trying to do, and then look at equipment, um and the different types of equipment and how we've approached like setting things up and the software we're using, and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to like give you a full understanding of what it has taken for us to do live streaming, and I think it will take less for clubs to do live streaming. We we approached it from a Hi Reese. We approached this from a like a service provision, right? Like we wanted to provide, like have certain levels, certain standards, that were more, I don't want to say professional, but like they were, better features than just someone stood with a camera in a field, which someone stood with a camera in a field is still decent. Like it's still better than nothing. But we wanted to have things like instant replays, scoreboards on on screen, um, commentary, multiple cameras if possible. Um, what else was there that we were looking at? Obviously, the ability to, to make sure that it was going live to multiple platforms. That was something that we wanted to solve for. I'm trying to think what else there was. I think that's it. But then we found loads of different features and niches along little niche things along the way, and our product still isn't where I believe it will end up. But one of the things I was thinking of while I was doing this, which probably may not be relevant to different clubs, was like I need to think about scalability. I always wanted to build more teams. I think we'll probably end up with 4 or 5 different teams that are live streaming every weekend. I think we've currently got one as a sort of proof of concept. Just building out my second team now. I look over here because that's where my equipment is that I've bought. Just forked out a load of money for all new equipment. So we're growing, but the biggest growth will happen hopefully when we start getting money. Because at the moment it's just me forking it out of my own pocket, and yeah, I'd rather it was washing its own face, as it were, right? But yeah, so with that scalability, I needed equipment that was easy to understand, easy to set up, easy to maintain, easy to store, transport. So all of those things were constantly factoring into my mind, and even like future development of the software, which I'll explain as we go. But essentially, the future development of the main piece of software we use is that it will go into 4K, and we're ready for that. As in, we've got 4K cameras pushing 4K signals back to our central piece of equipment. It's just that piece of equipment can only push out 1080 resolution at the moment. So once that gets upgraded, we're sort of ready to go. So there was a lot of decisions like that. Like, okay, what's the shelf life of this thing that we're purchasing now? Is this a high consumable thing where we're going to be purchasing it a lot of times, or is it something we only want to purchase once? Is it worth purchasing something that we don't use? Like that, or we're not sure what the usage is going to be. Um, the other thing was like I never wanted to be in a situation where I turned up somewhere, or my team turned up somewhere, and there was nothing like there was a hurdle that we couldn't overcome. So, and that again will become more apparent as I share some of the stuff we bought from a rigging perspective. It was there to sort of like save our asses from a power perspective, and then also from an internet signal perspective. So yeah, like what I started off with, I then boosted massively, and moved to other pieces of technology. Which I think we've probably done between 15 and 20 live stream games now. That sounds about right between Uniball and Senior Ball. I think it's probably about, because we're at what week 6 in Senior Ball, and yeah, we probably did about 6 or 7 in Uni Ball as well. So all of this stuff has been quite rapid learning, and us trying to pull together the best product possible. Um, so yeah, that's sort of where we've come from with this, and it may not align. That, like I said, some stuff may not align directly to what it is that you would maybe do to live stream your own club. But I will talk about options available there. So that's, I suppose, my intro. Like I said, please feel free to stop me, ask me questions along the way. I'm happy to tell you prices of things, and what we've put into it. I don't know. I don't see the point of covering that up. But yeah, that's essentially what we were trying to solve for, was offering this free solution that was scalable from our end. As hope, and still we're still in that early phase, right? People still aren't sure whether they would trust us with their, you've got like people that are early adopters and they love it, and that's really good. But you've also got some people that are like waiting to see what it looks like before they would potentially agree to us live streaming games. So, and that's fine. You'd expect that bell curve with any adoption of any well, anything in life, any consumable, right? So you got your laggards, and you've got your early adopters, and then you've got those like in between those. You've got sort of the main bulk of the populace that will hopefully adopt this. And when I say adopt this, I mean allow us to go and live stream their games and sort of buy into the whole thing. So yeah, it'd be a great, it'd be awesome in the future if we're doing, like I say, we get 4 or 5 teams, we've got 4 or 5 games every weekend. We might even be able to utilize the equipment on a Saturday as well. Have a team that will do flag or the women's games. That'll be really cool to be able to provide, more instances, but then also improve the quality of the broadcast. So that means like more camera angles, um, more graphics on screen, better replays, um, halftime shows, adverts, pre-show interviews, post say show pre-game interviews, post-game interviews, and we started to do post-game interviews, and they're working all right, but there's always things to improve. Like we'd like to get a backdrop that's got logos on it, and again, sponsors would pay or advertisers would pay for space on that. So there's lots of room for us to grow into, and we're just sort of we're still just getting started, right? So the core element, the core thing, the central thing that was really important was the equipment that would do the live streaming, and there was a few options, um, and the one we went with was this device. I've got one here. I've got it here. I've got one here. I've got two that I own now, but one of them's here. Let me just unplug it. And this will look a little bit fancy because it's got a base unit and a hood and a rack on it. So, but it's actually just a tablet looking thing, and it's this screen. It's just a screen. It's got loads of sockets in the top for different inputs. It's got an SD card in the bottom and a SIM card as well. It's called a YOLO Box Pro. Now, YOLO Box do um, different sizes, different versions. If you look on their website, what a YOLO Box does is it takes, as you could tell, inputs into it, and then it will connect to the internet, and it will connect to social media pages, and it will then broadcast onto them. So it will help with scheduling. So every week, like today, I did the scheduling for the game this weekend. I put it into the YOLO box, that fed it through to Facebook, it fed it through to YouTube, and it created the event on both of those platforms. So you could now look and see that we've got an event on Sunday on our social media for these games. I also post it to I also do a post on our website. So I embed the YouTube link or the YouTube instance into our web page, so that people can see it there as well, and we get a bit more traffic through, and people know, they can start trusting that they can go to our website and see that stuff too. If all else fails, you can just go to the website and you'll be able to see the live streams. I don't know that, obviously some clubs just won't have that luxury. It will just be one account. You might just want to just do it to Facebook or just do it to YouTube. I would say if you're going to pick one, it's not an easy decision because Facebook inevitably will have the largest following, and therefore, when you do post that you're live, as a lot of you guys that are watching now will probably have seen some sort of pop up to say this, Sport Tank's now live with this show. Come and watch it. So it draws people into it. But then YouTube is better for analytics, ease of use. You can cast easy from a YouTube to a larger screen as a viewer, and I think it actually organizes the content better for you than Facebook does. Facebook sort of hides your video content. YouTube, that's all it is video content. So you get your own channel. You can put your own playlists together for your videos, and it's got better analytics as well. So yeah, it's a toss up. If it's a toss up between the two, you need to sort of factor in all of those things. You could easily go live on YouTube and then just copy and paste the link onto your Facebook, but it won't work in the same sort of notification way. Any external links that you post on Facebook, i.e., when I say external, to another website, so a YouTube link, even though it's your channel, they're two different companies, Google and Meta. Facebook will not expose that content to as many people as it would if it was its own inherent content. So picture, just text or whatever, more people will see it than if you're saying, "Oh, watch this video," and you've got a link. So yeah, I think the best option, and that's why we've picked it, is to go to publish on both. So we publish on both, as you guys all know. And then through the YOLO box, what happens is all of the comments that come in, just like the comments are popping up on the side here. This one's a bit risky because with this software, every comment comes up, but with the YOLO box, you get to see it, and then you can tap on it, and then it will appear on the screen. So no one else can see it unless they're looking on the actual posts online, because the chat will come through, but you can actually decide what comments pop up on the screen or not. And I can do that in this software as well, actually, just to show you. If I click on the Hi Steve one, it pops up at the bottom. So the idea is, like, if someone, for us, what we try to do is educate people about the game, because there usually is a lot of parents or friends and family watching the streams and they don't understand the game fully. So if they ask a question, we'll pop it up on the screen and then start talking. And that's getting more into like the way you broadcast rather than the actual nuts and bolts of it. But yeah, that's sort of the angle that we've taken, but just to highlight the way it's used. Is the video better? So that that's Alicia. Hello. Is the video quality better on Facebook or YouTube for streaming? They're both capable of doing 1080p or 1080i, I think it is. So there's no difference as far as we can tell. We push out 1080, and both platforms seem to have the good level of resolution. It's mostly down to the strength and the quality of the signal that you're able to get. In a lot of instances, you're out in the middle of a field, and I had one instance where it was a Bournemouth Uni Bobcats game, and at the venue they've got Wi-Fi, and in the car park they've got good. I think it's even a 5G, maybe a 4G signal. But you walk next to the pitches and there was no signal. And I tried to start live streaming a game and it just didn't work out. So I had to pack up and I was very annoyed. And that's when I made a decision to another equipment decision, which I'll explain to you. Cool. But yeah, thanks for the question. Like I said, keep them coming. So this YOLO box, and there's a YOLO box mini and a standard YOLO box. And the difference between them is the number of inputs. So this YOLO box Pro that I've got has got 3 HDMI inputs here, and then it's got this here, which is a USB-C, which can be turned either input or output. So that's quite cool. So you could technically have 4 cameras feeding into it. If you wanted to get really advanced, you could have more cameras feeding into like a video switcher and then them feeding in. So you could have tons more cameras that it could handle. But let's keep it basic. It's like 1 camera per input. You can have up to 4 easily. Now, when we did our first live stream, we did 3 cameras. So we picked we picked one to I'm trying to think, how did we get those set up? I think one was there was the two cameras were set up like and these are the cameras we were using, these Sony 4K. They are FDR AX43s, and I shopped around a lot before I picked these. These are about £500. The reason I picked them is that they've actually got this. They've got a 20 optical zoom. So like when we're setting the cameras up, we have one as a close camera and one as a wide camera. To try to film like in between plays, close up, get the refs if they're talking, if they're going to say something, maybe a coach or whatever, and then like the huddles of the quarterback. And when the play starts, we switch to the wide angle. Well, that was the intention, and we sort of, we're not that great at that. I think we tend to have focused our resources in terms of people on commentary and audio. I found, like, again, through doing this, that's the single most important thing after having a picture. So we would prefer to have 1 camera and a couple of people commentating and focusing on the interaction than to have 2 cameras and just 1 person talking, or any other option, any other concoction you could come up with. So just quickly, there's a question here from Connor saying, have you considered streaming directly from Sport Tank's main website? It says and I can't see what you said past beyond the word and. There's obviously a character limit. Let me just see if I can see it on our Facebook page. But to answer the first point, yes, I have considered. Oh, it stops at and. Sorry, Connor, if you want to finish that off, I'll pick it up. But yeah, just to answer what I can see on screen, that's all good. Yes, we've considered the 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 future for us is to go and stream directly from our website, and to not like, this is, I don't know how far in advance this is, but I want us to create our own version of a YouTube that we can post our own stuff on, but also other people could use for different types of live streams. So yeah, our future is to just do it from our website, but for now, um, we're trying to build an audience that we can sell, as in provide to companies to get them to advertise or sponsor, however you want to look at it. And the easiest route to market for that is through YouTube or Facebook, because I could get instant analytics that are reliable, and it takes less. It's a lot less hassle, in terms of like costs and stuff. So that's why we haven't. That's why we're not doing that. But yes, the plan is to do that in the future. So like Facebook, sorry, what Sport Tank is right now is going to be a lot different to what it is in the future. At the moment, it's sort of mostly media. It's going to be more of a platform that content is posted on in the future, and we're slowly building it out with like profiles. I don't know if anyone's dove into that, but you can build your own sporting profile on Sport Tank now. We're working on getting team pages that would link to those profiles, so you can see rosters and stats and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, beyond that, we also want to make sure that there's other platform elements to it. Tebs is here. Hello, mate. Tebs, feel free to chip in with stuff, or even if you want to come on, you're welcome to. Tebs has been on the journey with me. Tebs is our head of media, so he looks after. It was his sort of brainchild, I suppose. Like I said, we'd already talked about live streaming, but he really sort of pushed for it, and that's why we're doing it. So he equally, he knows as much as me, I suppose, on the topic. Oh, so Connor said, I know there's a system. I'm not ultra techie, so I don't know how it works exactly, where you can stream to a main website and it sends the stream to YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, there will be. With that, you would still be using another platform. We want to become that platform essentially. So we're happy with using just the social platforms for now, and then ultimately we'll change it to our own. Reese said, on your setup, how are you able to power all of your equipment? Yeah, we'll get to that. Obviously, being by a field, power is an issue with our club. Are you all battery powered? So you don't. So do you not need any mains power? Yeah. So yeah, essentially that's the answer, is that we're battery powered, but we've had a bit of a journey with that as well. Russ has asked, do I get to see how many of you in the streams? Yeah. So I can see this one right now. I can see there's 19 people, 18 now. It keeps flickering, and you get to see that on the YOLO box as well. It will tell you how many are watching. So yeah, you can see that. Tabs has said NWFL games last year done a phone with one camera and one commentator, to what we have now. Yeah. That's where it started off, was Tebs just trying to he wanted to live stream some women's games, and we're like, okay, let's try and make it work. And if we compare that first broadcast to what we're doing now, we're light years ahead. And it doesn't take a lot of learning, it doesn't take a lot of time, to sort of build this stuff out, which is why I'm comfortable sort of talking about it and sharing it, because I sort of feel like there were a lot of moments of clarity, and like, oh yeah, that's quite easy, that works. So yeah, so there is another competitor to a YOLO box, but it doesn't have a screen. So the YOLO box is like, I liken it to like an iPhone, right? It's like a screen, a tablet, and everything's in there, and you just tap away. It's really simple. With the competitor one, I think it's an ATEM. Let me just have a quick look. ATEM, very, very good piece of software, but doesn't come with a screen. So you then have to have a screen. And again, that might be a viable option for you at your club. It wasn't for us, because I'm trying to minimize on space to be able to make things transportable. Yeah, ATEM. It's called the company that create them are called Black Magic, and they do a different a range of these consoles that very similar to the YOLO box. Everything plugs in, but you also have to plug a monitor in, and then you can click around. Um, oh yeah, yeah. I'll talk about the ref equipment as well. So yeah, I so I did look into the ATEM or ATEM or Black Magic. I don't know what you call them, and decided on the YOLO box again for those reasons. More compact, less equipment, quite like nice, easy interface and software. Um, and we went with the Pro as opposed to like there's a few different options if you go on the YOLO box website. Um, bring it up so we can all have a look together. So you can see here, there's this massive one here on the right. As you see, it's like a huge, like an easel, which is for like you, I say YouTubers, like TikTokers dancing in front of it and stuff. That's how, or people that are doing cookery, like that need to see themselves, see what they're doing, which is quite interesting. But yeah, these all these different flavors of it. They've got it's weird. They've got this vertical one, but actually the other ones can be made vertical. So I don't really understand that. But let me just show you. So if you go to the product, there's YOLO Box, there's YOLO Box Pro and Mini. I would say and then there's other things like InStream Verticam and YOLO Max. That's these other bits here. But I would say the ones that you want to stick to and have a look around are the YOLO Box, the Pro. But I would say the Mini should be fine. The Mini will allow you to do one camera. So it's one camera input. You can see it's very similar to the Pro. And I think it just keeps things nice and simple. With the Pro, we've got so many inputs and options, but the software remains the same in both of them, right? Like that, you still have an input and away you go. And I'd imagine what you want to try and do for a club is set up a one-man band, so one person can do, and I've done this myself, one camera, just a YOLO box, microphone, going through all the comments at the same time while commentating, while moving the camera, and it's possible. It's a lot of work, and you don't do things as well if there's more if there's more people. The more the merrier, but it is possible to do. So that's what I would that's the hardware I would suggest that you get. So going back to what I was saying, and the other one, like is the ATEM. Let me just share that. Sorry, I thought it would flick over, but it's not. Oh, ATEM. I don't know how to say it, but this one here, this is the website for the other one, and they've got. So it's that, yeah, the ATEM Mini is the one that we started. You can see there, all things plug into the top of it, and then you've just got there's buttons on it to switch over audio, video, etc. It may look quite confusing, but there's really good YouTube videos explaining it. It's actually really, really simple. But I found that the YOLO box was simpler, and there are, yeah, you can see there's all these different concoctions of them, and they go up to, I don't know where I can see it. There's like huge, massive ones that they do, and they sell cameras as well. It's not what I wanted to get into. Um, yeah, forget that. I'll get rid of it. But yeah, so there are different flavors of the ATEMs, and you can go and have a look through them. But I would, yeah, like I said, I would strongly recommend the YOLO box. They've been really good. So yeah, like I said, on our first ever setup, we had three cameras. So we had a near, a far, and then we had a camera on the commentators. Um, and we've dropped the camera on the commentators because it was just too difficult to do it, to have the camera on. Plus, we were trying to use the YOLO box because that was there as obviously that was there as well. And yeah, we end up dropping that third camera for now. The Right, I'm going to bring up because I created a diagram to show you guys how this stuff all works, and it will also help me to explain everything as well. But essentially, the way that I sort of advise the guys when we're setting stuff up is the first thing is rigging. So like all of your structures that hold the equipment, right? So like tripods, clamps, whatever else there is. Um, that's number one. We get that set up first. We also add to it like tables and chairs because we've got tables and chairs. Going to buy sport tank gazebo soon to keep the sun off of the equipment and the sun off of us. Um, yeah, plus he wants to look at Tebs. Yeah. Um, so that's going to come soon. Is that we'll have like a little mini 3 meter by 3 meter gazebo thing that we put everything in, and our guys are protected. But it's also look good for the brand, right? To have a sport tank branded green gazebo stood up. So yeah, at the moment we've got and everything we've got is like foldable. So it's like these foldable tables, foldable chairs, all like picnic stuff. It was really good looking at picnic stuff to find stuff that's easy to transport and close down. So that's a good little tip there. Um, so yeah, rigging was the first thing. Then it's equipment. So equipment is things like YOLO box, um, cameras, transmitters, all this other audio mixer, etc. All of this other stuff. And then the last thing is cabling, right? So how do we connect it, or how do we, or maybe not cabling, connectivity? How is that all then connected? So that's the three like ways of us sort of breaking it down. And that's sort of how we talk about setting it up, and then also pulling it away as well. And that's been really handy, sort of using that ethos. I'm also going to share with you. Let's put it up on screen here. So this is like a diagram that I created. And I will zoom in. But what you can see here, right? In the middle is the YOLO Box Pro, right? So that's an encoder, a digital audio mixer, a recorder, a switcher, and a monitor. It's all of those things in one if you wanted to get technical. You don't need to know what any of those things are or what they do, really. You just need to know sort of how the thing works. But that's the main piece of equipment that sits in the middle. And then you've got these four sections around it, which are microphone inputs, video inputs, broadcast outputs, and then internet connectivity. That's how, again, I like, as well as like the setup structure, I also, this is how we have to think of like the configuration. That's what I'd call the configuration, right? So, and I've tried to sort of replicate the way that the YOLO box works by having inputs at the top and outputs at the bottom. It's not quite like that, but it just sort of helps you understand what you're plugging into it and what you're feeding from it. So we'll start off with the audio because that's relevant to Russ's comment here. Now, when we first started, it didn't look like. Oh, let me zoom in a little bit. It didn't look like this with wireless mics. Essentially, that's what we use is wireless mics. We actually had cabled mics that were like the commentary ones. They were quite expensive, 150 quid with the earphones and the mic on the front. They look good, but there's no way to configure them that I'm sure someone will correct me otherwise, but no simple way to configure them so that you can hear what the broadcast as well as speak. So what we were doing is initially we were plugging those in to an audio mixer. So we had a different audio mixer. We got a very small one now. We had a larger one. Plugging those headphones into an audio mixer, and for the sound, we were having to plug in a Bluetooth transmitter and then put an AirPod in our ear with the headset over it. So it was only really for the look. And then we decided to move over to wireless microphones, so you didn't have this big headset. One, because we decided not to have commentators constantly on screen, but two, because it was a really complex way of doing things. So what we've got now is essentially two sets of wireless microphones, and I picked two different companies, two different brands. They're both market leading. They're both very good, but they've both got they've both got their own like strengths and weaknesses. So essentially, we've got. I'll pluck out the first one, or will I? No, here it is. So the first one is this, which is a DJI receiver. You can see that top box, right? So if I open this box is amazing. So if I open this box, you can see here the lights come on. So this is actually a charger. The box charges and it calibrates. So if there's ever like a loss of signal or it can't find the receiver, you just chuck it all back in here, close it, and then it will recalibrate. really powerful, and it charges with one cable in the back, which is awesome, right? So I'm a massive fan of this. And essentially what we do is you've got this receiver, which DJI receiver, and it's got I'll try and I don't know if it'll clear, but it's got two visuals there telling me, and when they move, I know that there's a signal being sent to this receiver, right? So that gets plugged in, that gets slotted into the top of the YOLO box like that, so we can see if the audio is working at any time, right? And we can mute the microphones from there, and then literally the mics, you just pull them out. Um, that's a mic there. It's got a little clip on the back. It's got a magnetic clip as well, and that's now working. That's now broadcasting to the YOLO box. Oh, sorry, to the receiver. The receiver's not plugged into the YOLO box yet. It's that simple. And then, so this is the one that we give to the refs, or what we did. We're not allowed at the moment, but hopefully we can soon. And they would literally just pop it on their uniform, and then there's a button here, and it vibrates. So I push the button down. That's vibrated, and then the green light's off. No broadcast. So the ref would have that off on, and then when they were ready to make an announcement, hold it down. Don't even need to look at it. It vibrates, it flashes, and now it's going. Now it's transmitting. So really, really handy. So you get two of those little things, and then you also get, give me a sec, these two little adapters which allow you to plug them into phones. So an iPhone one or an Android USB-C. So you plug those into the receiver at the back here, and then they plug into the bottom of the phone, and then it's sending the audio straight to a phone. We've never used that, but I think it's a really, really cool feature. We've always used it straight into the YOLO box. But yeah, some really, really awesome tech. Now these, oh, I want to find the cost of them because I got my Amazon up to look at all of the costs. I don't know if I shared the YOLO box cost. So the YOLO box itself is about £1,200. I managed to get one for 900 in a sale. The second one I bought was a second-hand one. This hood, this rack on the back of it, this red, the bit with red bits and bars going across, that was about $100. And then this hood, which attached to it, so I can see, that was, I think, about $60. And then at the bottom, it's sitting on two pieces of equipment. One's called a cheese board. I've got another one around here somewhere. There it is. I found, again, like brands, the brand Small Rig, you can see it there. They're probably the best brand that I've come across in terms of like high quality equipment. You can trust it. Like I find that there's a lot of with the photography stuff, because you're typically looking at photography equipment. It can be a lot hit and miss. You can pay a lot of money for something that's really poor quality, just because you don't know what you're looking at. And I just found that Small Rig was a brand that I trusted. It isn't cheap, but it isn't overly expensive. This is a cheese board, and essentially what it is it attaches to pieces of equipment, and then you can then attach other things to it. So that's essentially what I've done here with the YOLO box. On the back of it, there's the part of the frame. I've attached the cheese board to it, and that then allows me to attach the tripod attachments to the bottom of the cheese board. So yeah, there's a lot of like figuring out of like, okay, then that's what I'm talking about with rigging, figuring out how you're going to structure things and how it all pulls together. There's plenty of ways to skin a cat essentially, and I've tried quite a few of them, and this is what I've sort of come up with. One more thing with the I don't have it. I've got one here actually. With the microphones, is they come with a little, I don't know, windbreaker, is it? A little thing that I don't know if these are attached because they're from the other one, but essentially this little fluffy thing sticks to the top of it. So I used to give that to a ref so that because they'd be stood out in the wind, and it wouldn't distort the sound. So that's one microphone setup, right? So you can see that's the top piece there. Ref mic, spare mic or guest mic that we had. So we gave one to the ref and the other one stayed in the box if someone else came, like Russ, he used this one. He can attest. And then they both feed into that one receiver. That receiver then feeds into a mixer, which I'll show you in a second. So that's, and then for the other one, so there's a little bit. So I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go with these mics as opposed to these headsets, right? And I thought initially, oh, I'll just buy a DJI one. So we've got 2 lots of DJI. There was a stock shortage, so that forced me. So it wasn't like a quick, easy buy. It forced me into the, back into the market to look at stuff, and that's when I looked at the Rode Go 2s again. I'd already looked at them, and I actually like the idea of having 2 separate ones, and it's worked out really well. The reason I like the idea of having 2 separate ones is I didn't have to worry about potential like transmission issues between the 2 different DJIs. Although I'm fairly sure that they've thought of that. I just thought, well, if I've got 2 separate companies, then I shouldn't have that issue at all. But also, what's happened with these with the Rode ones? So the Rode ones are these little square ones, and you'll see. I see a lot of these on TikTok and different influencers. You'll see either of these mics clipped, either with or without the little fluffy bit on them, to a lot of content creators. So let me just put it, there you go, that's what that one looks like. So when our commentators, these are the commentator mics, so the commentators will have these just clipped on, and they'll start talking, and away they go. It's not invasive or anything. Both of these, these two attached to this can connect to this receiver. So if I turn the receiver on, there you go, you see it loading up, and it will, there you go. I don't know if it's that clear, but there's two. It says a number 1 and a number 2, which is the 2 separate mics. Now I've turned the mics on. The blue lights at the top will go on. That's how we know they're on. There we go. So they're now transmitting to this receiver. Hopefully, when I talk, you can see it moving. And then what I do is, so this is slightly different, but only because of where the. Sorry, I'm talking. You guys probably can't hear me. This one's slightly different because the DJI one, the screen was on the side. So when I slotted it into the YOLO box, I can see. Well, this one, if I slide it into the YOLO box, the YOLO box frame, the screen is facing upwards. I can't see it. So again, a little bit of rigging, right? So this is actually 2 separate pieces that I've got. This one's called like a cold shoe. And then this one was just, I think it was called an adapter. And this cold shoe has got a pivot in it, so I can pivot it 90 degrees. So what I do here, let me just move my, so you guys can see it. You can see the top of that mic. For this one, I slot this in here, twist it down so it locks in place. And then the receiver just slots in here. So we can see both mics, or all 4 mics, if we've got all of them going, all at the same time. Obviously, cables will come out of this and plug into a mixer, which goes back into it. But yeah, the mics are already just ready to go. Now, an additional element for these mics, and this was brilliant. I was so pleased when I came across this, is that these Rode mics, which we've made the commentator mics, also can be slotted into this adapter. So if I slot that in there, and then I can put this little windbreaker on it. And those of you that have seen our live streams will know that we hand this to the people that we interview after games if we are interviewing. Sometimes the commentators want to just use this one. So it's really, and what I've done is I've actually ordered some custom, I think they're called windshields, sponge windshields, which are on like a 4-week lead-in time. But soon we'll have sport tank ones, and that'll look quite cool. So yeah, that's another, again, probably not something that you would consider for your clubs, but really helps us. And was great because we didn't get that with the DJI mics. We only got it once we got the Rode ones. So yeah, that's that. Is there any more? No more questions are coming. So those 4 digital mics go into the receivers. Now there's, in terms of the range, I can't remember what the range is. Hold on, let me have a look. Oh, I was going to tell you about the pricing of the things, weren't I? Sorry, I didn't do that. Let's do that. Oh, it's not showing me the price. Let's have a quick look. So the DJI one with like 2 mics, the receiver, the case, all that, is £290, and the Rode one, so the square one, this one, £270 or £260. I can't remember what these. Let me just go and have a look, because you also got to factor in the little holders. called a wireless Go 2, is the type of mic. And oh, give me a sec. Sorry, guys. I'm just looking at my orders. Yeah, there we go. And this holder, it's called a Rode Interview Go handheld adapter. Those are £35 each. Jesus, I didn't know that much. So I bought four of them. I've spent 140 quid just on those. But they're like I said, they're very good. They work for us because of the type of broadcast we're doing. You probably won't need them if you're just doing it for a team. However, you may prefer it. So those microphones, those microphones go into the receivers. The receivers sit on top of the YOLO box, and also what we then do is plug a mixer in. Now, initially I had a large mixer, but it broke. And then I asked a friend of mine who's a DJ, oh, what sort of mixer should I use? And he sent me a link for like a 700 quid one. It was a Rode one. I was like, it's pretty good. Like, I couldn't argue with it, but also it was a bit too much money for me. Like, I was like, there's got to be a cheaper way. So I've looked around and I found this little white mixer, and it can handle three inputs. You can see, but there's three dials for three inputs and then one dial for the master. It can be run off of battery or it can be run off of a USB cable, and it's perfect and it works really well for us. And I'm just going to find out how much. I think they're about 40 quid. Yeah, £45. And it's called a Maker Heart Just Mixer S3 channel. And it's perfect. And well, the only thing I need is a better way of rigging it to the to the YOLO box, because what I end up doing is like strapping it. So that's another thing I've found out is buying like Velcro straps has been a godsend, to be able to like tie things up and rig stuff where you don't have the rigging equipment. You can fall back on strapping. Also, with like when we're climbing up onto platforms, or sometimes the platforms aren't that big. So what we started doing now is strapping the tripod, the two front legs of the tripod, flat up against the any sort of bar or rail that's on the top of these platforms, and yeah, and it's just holding it there perfectly. So yeah, the straps are a big plus. So so this mixer, like I said, is fantastic. You essentially have got one of these cables goes to one of the receivers, one goes to the other, one goes to the power, which we only just started doing because we were using batteries, and then the last one goes into the YOLO box. So pushing, as you can see on that visual there, everything gets pushed into the top of the YOLO box through a 3.5 mil, and I didn't know what that meant, but a 3.5 mil phone jack is like the old one you used to have on your phone. Sorry, 3.5. It's not a phone jack. Audio jack is like the old one you used to have on your phone. It's that one, quite common size and quite recognizable. So it's just simply one of those that goes into the top of the YOLO box, and the YOLO box then has got its own mixer. So while this mixer controls the inputs from the four mics, the YOLO box controls the audio from anything that's being pushed into it. So the cameras, if we've got the audio, we can switch the audio on and off of cameras, any videos that we might want to load up. So there's a lot of control over what your over what audio your audience are hearing with a YOLO box, and that's what that was. I would say that was the toughest nut for us to crack week on week. And even like the game just gone, we lost audio for a second in the third quarter because someone had switched off this mixer, which no one had any reason to touch it. It must have been inadvertent. But yeah, like we're still sort of learning and figuring out the right way of doing stuff. And like I said, with this, like you may not find that this is the right way for you guys to do it, but I just wanted to tell you how we solved it and why we solved it in that way. So ease of use was massive. So all of these mics, just pick them up, turn them on, hand them to someone. There you go. You talking to that. We might check, so that there are some headsets which I think are on this outputs. That we check everything when we go live. That's what I do. But yeah, really, really straightforward, easy to use. Moving over to the other side here. So this is probably a little bit more interesting. Although, well, I think getting your head around the audio is vital. That was something that I sort of was a bit nonchalant with, and it sort of bit us in the arse a bit because it was hard to figure out. Video is very straightforward. Like I said, so you can see you've got 3 HDMI ins. You've got a USB, which is currently for us unused, but it can be in or out. And then we also have got an SD card that can feed stuff in. So we load graphics. So we've got like the injury graphic now. We've got the pre-game graphics showing what the who the teams are and what division it is, etc. We've got a video that plays, about 15-second video that plays when we first start and when we end the live stream. We've only done that once, which is the weekend just gone, and we've just also started doing a halftime video. So all of that content is uploaded via an SD card, and then you just tap on it and bring it into the YOLO box. So it's really, really straightforward. I just load it up from my computer onto the system. We use Canva for all of our all of our illustration stuff and our video stuff, and it works really well. Canva, we just renewed our license. It costs us £100 a year, and that gives us 5 people that can go. So 5 of our team members can log into it and share content and chat and all that. So it's really handy. So we've got like a couple of people that, like, the Breens have got some bits that they do. LL Cool P's got his own little folder for his stats stuff, and then we've just got like perpetual stuff that gets used, or like again and again for like different posts. So we've got deeper usage of it, but we certainly do use it for the live streams as well, with the graphics and the videos. Really, really easy for the videos. A lot of existing templates you just pull out, change the colors of, drag new video in or whatever, and it's just so simple. And maybe for another time I might show you guys how we use Canva, but yeah, I back it. There might be some other options, other non-paid or more expensive or more cheap options out there, but Canva's work really well for us. So you will have noticed here we've got camera 1, camera 2, and then camera 3 has got this extra stuff. This extra stuff was extremely expensive, but it's very, very useful, and it's how we are going to add more cameras. So at the moment, we effectively don't use camera 2. We only use what, as far as this diagram is concerned, a camera 1 and a camera 3. So a camera 1 is a hardwired camera from the camera on its tripod into the YOLO box. So we've got a 5-meter cable. Again, that was another learning curve. We started off with a shorter cable, and we couldn't move the YOLO box far from the camera, and it was a bit of a pain. So nice long 5-meter. I don't know if it's armored, but it's like one of those like weaved cables. So if you step on it on the grass or whatever, it doesn't break it. I expect that one to break because it's the one that you're most likely to just sort of trample. But yeah, so 5 meters, and that's been really handy when we've been on the sideline. So we tried to set up. I'll get to that in a second, actually. So you've got one 5-meter cable that's set up, and then the other one, the camera plugs into. Which one does it plug into? This transmitter. So that, and what you've got is this little bit of rigging. I don't really know what to call it, but that sits in the. So you flip open the top of the camera. Oh, let me just show you. So that's the camera. Flip open the top of it, slide that in, and then I have it round facing me so I can see the screen. I need to tighten up a little bit, but yeah. And then nice big battery in the back for this one. So again, battery packs. I bought tons of batteries so that we can always swap them over. These battery packs are really good because they last a long time. So I've never had to change one of these, but they've got a little USB out here, so you can charge something else with it. So one camera would look like this. It's a remote camera. It's a hot shoe. Yeah, there's a hot shoe and a cold shoe. And I don't know the difference. Thanks, Alicia. So this will sit in a tripod, and then we can move it around anywhere, right? It's wireless, because at the other end we've got the same looking type of thing, which is a wireless receiver. Again, battery in the back. That goes onto the YOLO box, or the YOLO box rigging. So it will stick out the back like this. Oh, can you see it? Yeah, and the battery will be in there, and then the cable from the battery will also feed the mixer, which I'll strap to it. It all looks really confusing, but it's actually, there's logic to every single piece. And then what that does, as you may have guessed, it sends a wireless signal constantly to the YOLO box. And then, sorry. So from that receiver, there's a HDMI cable that plugs into the YOLO box, as you can see here. Sorry, here. That HDMI cable plugs into the YOLO box. So this is a wireless connection here. And we then get, I think it's like 0.03 millisecond difference. It's a really, really good. There's like hardly any latency between what we're filming remotely, or what we're transmitting wirelessly, and and what's happening in real time. Obviously, a wired cable is perfect, but this is very, very fine line of latency. I'm going to have a look, because this was extremely expensive. It was like 500 quid. Although someone may be quick to tell me, yeah, well, that's not very much for a receiver. They go up into the millions, and they do. And, I don't know about millions, but they go up into high prices. That one was the right one for us, in terms of the range we needed, that we would have clear line of sight, pretty much a clear line of sight in the same field sort of thing. There's other ones that can just, go through concrete and buildings and stuff. We didn't need something so big. So essentially, for us to add more cameras, we either have to have them hardwired to the YOLO box, or purchase more wireless transmitters. So that's the only option. So for us to do a 4-camera setup, we would probably have one wired, and then 3 wireless, which is like 1,500 quid of transmitters. So yeah, just like I don't think I got them off of Amazon, because I can't see. Must have got them off of another website. Yeah, I did. But yeah, they were like 500 quid for the pair. Cameras, they were 500 quid. Again, I did a bit of research around them. I wanted 4K. I wanted it for it to be able to handle a little bit of wobbling, and it to have a nice zoom on it. So yeah, looked around. Obviously needed to have it as cheap as possible as well. So I got these 500. They're about £500 each. This one was a second-hand one, actually. I just bought for the new team up north. Still around 500 quid, but I don't know, maybe 70 quid less, something like that. But yeah, so that's the video input stuff, every single video input thing. So in the future, we will get more wireless, and we'll have more camera angles. But for that to happen, we need more cameramen and women. And the other thing is, like, I also like the idea of a roving reporter with a camera person. So you have like 3 cameras on the game, and then 1 camera going to see people on the sidelines, coaches, players, family, friends, and just talking to them, and giving like reports, injury reports, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do with it. We haven't got the equipment or the people yet. So yeah, so we're just going with 1 transmitted and 1 cabled. So we have 2 cameras. In terms of how we set those up, so we typically, if we're at ground level, like if we have to be pitch side, there's no elevated viewing. We go at the 25-yard line for both, or the 20-yard line, 20 to 25, depends on the player's box. And we film 5 yards away from the field, so we've got plenty of space. And we will switch over the cameras, right? So as the ball crosses the 50-yard line, we'll move over to the nearest camera. And again, the producer role is the one that does that. It's typically a commentator or a camera person that's next to the wired camera, right? So we run this with 2, 3, 4 men. The more men we've got, the better, because we can have 1 on a camera, commentators just commentating, 1 on the YOLO box, 1 on the other camera, and everything would be great. You could also do with a runner as well, like someone just like finding information out, and just supporting the team, because there's so much that goes on. Like I said, that's a 5-man crew. You could get away with doing it for a 1-man crew as well. One thing that happens to us constantly, so I was just seeing Alicia's comment: one powers, one doesn't. One, oh right, okay, that's with a hot shoe. I didn't know that. Cheers, Alicia. Um, yeah, one thing that happens constantly is people always come up to us and want to look at the equipment, ask us questions, tell us that they like what we're doing. Um, some spectators, when the game's on, don't fully know the game, will like walk in front of the camera. They'll come and stand next to us while we're talking, like while we're commentating. So we've started like wearing high vis jackets so people give us some time to set up. I've got some cones, collapsible cones. Here they are. In here are 4 collapsible cones that we set up, and there's a little chain. That's handy. Sorry. That's really handy as well, because people tend to sort of stay away. When we get the gazebo, that'll be like the best, because I'll have 3 sides of it, like with a knee-high board, so people would only be able to come in the front, and hopefully they're going to be less likely to do that. But yeah, that's like it's a nice problem because people are interested, but it can be quite frustrating when people, especially when they're walking in front of the cameras with, or talking right next to the commentators, and the mics just pick up everything. So yeah, those are some of the issues that we have, but they're never, it's never anything major. Right, moving on to the let's look at the outputs next, the broadcast outputs. So we've got an audio out, which we plug into a splitter to split the audio. Now it's actually either 2 of these 3 options. We've only got a 2-way splitter. You can get 3 or whatever. And we've got 2 headsets that we call them commentator headsets, because when we've got a ref mic'd up, that's the only way that the commentators can hear what the refs are saying on their mics. They might be able to hear them if they're in earshot, if they're near side of the pitch, but so what you'll see is our commentators will pop on these headsets when we've got a ref to hear what the ref's saying. So there's 2 of those. The producer uses that otherwise to just make sure the audio sounds good. And then I said it earlier, there's a Bluetooth transmitter that we actually we've got 2 sets of AirPods that we can use as well, but I haven't used them in a while. We get by quite well with what we've got. Cool. Right. Give me a second. I'm gonna have a quick break, so I need to go to the toilet. And then I'll come back and do the audio stuff. Sorry, do the connectivity stuff, which is probably the most interesting stuff. That was awful. Let me do a better one. Right, I'm back. So actually, let me just turn that off for a sec, just to show you some other equipment. So these are the headphones. I just realised that I may have been showing you in a small window before, but these are the DJI microphones that you pull out. The other ones, the Rode ones, they're nice and small. And then this is the transmitter. The receiver looks exactly the same. It's just at the bottom it says RX instead of TX. Big old battery in the back. Batteries, I bought ones that show the power, and then they also act as a power bank. So we've got plenty of them. I will get onto batteries and power in a second, because that's its own thing. Right, let me bring that. This is well, you probably, this is overkill for you guys, in my opinion. But I want to talk you through it, and so you know the different options available. So we do have and pay for a micro SIM card that will go into the bottom, and then it will connect to 4 5G, and it's good enough. Like we've when we first started our very first few games, we did the Southampton Stags a few times. They're based right next to an airport, and the 4G signal was strong enough. It was like 50 meg, strong enough to do the live stream seamlessly. It was great. Um, and then, but then some venues have got Wi-Fi. That venue did. We tried to switch over to that in a later date, and we found out that the Wi-Fi was limited for users. It was a guest Wi-Fi, and it was causing us all sorts of issues. It kept stuttering and stopping the live stream, and we don't know that watching it unless in the top right corner, top left corner of the yellow box screen, it does say the drop rate and the frame rate, like what's successfully going through, and it will say like I don't know 10% drop, and then there's it's really laggy. So it's really frustrating when that happens because you're just it takes the wind out your sails. Um, and yeah, so what we were doing initially is we were saying to clubs, can you go and stand pitch side and do a speed check on your phone? And basically anything that was like 10, 12 meg or above, we were good with. Anything lower than that, we weren't good with. We couldn't do. So yeah, so that's what the micro sim's for. It's like a backup, really, I suppose now. But that's what we started using it for. I've since found out because it's a Smarty sim. I think it's a data only one, and I think it uses one of the networks, Vodafone or three or O2. I'm not sure, but it uses one of the networks. However, there's a SIM card that you can buy that will use three networks. Not at the same time. It will scan the three networks, the three major networks, and it will connect to the strongest one. I need to find the name of the company out because that will be useful for our northern team. Anyway, so when it comes to connecting to the internet, the YOLO box can connect via SIM data, so that micro SIM card. It can connect via Wi-Fi, via a router, which are so with all this expensive equipment, especially the cameras, how are you protecting the gear from the X Factor? Yeah, that's another thing, Alicia, we'll get to. So yeah, the Wi-Fi router it connects to a router. So if you're in a clubhouse and you're in an elevated position, I didn't finish saying that earlier. So we typically set up on the two cameras on the 25, 30 yard lines. However, if we've got an elevated view, that wireless camera will be at the elevated view, and it'll be the wide shot. So typically that's the main camera we'll use from that point. We only sort of use the other one when the ball is closer to it, like literally right in front of it, or we're swapping the battery over or something like that. So yeah, it's a temporary use of the other one. But I think again with more crew members, dedicated cameramen or camera people, and dedicated producer, someone managing the YOLO box, we could probably be a bit more creative with the camera usage, and have like communication between them. So at the moment for communication, that's another thing. We've bought these Motorola headsets, walkie-talkies. I'm just going to find the price for them. They've got like a 15-kilometer range on them. They're over the top for what we need, but that's what I wanted. Reliable. They were 150 quid for a set of four, and they've been really useful. And obviously, as we get a bigger crew, we can have more people on them. We typically only use two at a time at the moment because you've got the most amount of people stood around the YOLO box and the camera, and then just a lone camera person, which is normally me. So yeah, that's another thing that I'd highly recommend is getting some decent walkie-talkies. Sorry, these are 10-kilometer range. I lied, but we're never 10 kilometers away from each other, and it works when we're in buildings and all sorts of stuff. So definitely worth it. I'll go down to here next, which is the mobile hotspot at the bottom. So you can tether from the YOLO box to your phone. Oh, you can also do a dongle one now. You can, there's old dongle Wi-Fi connectors, or some of them are mostly data, weren't they? Those work on it as well, but I haven't got one of those. But I have actually done live streaming from my phone. I've tested it all out, and it works really well. So, but again, you're at the mercy of the connection, and I think especially if you're in a place where there's a weaker signal and a larger crowd, you'll be competing with them for the signal, and that's for the Wi-Fi, for the SIM data, and for the mobile hotspot. So going back to my story about when we went to Bournemouth, and I had to pack up. I was packed up by half time because it couldn't get it to connect. I tried to stand closer to set everything up closer to the clubhouse. It wasn't working. So I went and bought a Starlink satellite. Now I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but essentially it's actually owned by Elon Musk, Starlink, and they got like a series of lower flying satellites, and it connects and gives you broadband. I paid extra to get an enhanced satellite, so I can't remember what the normal one costs, but my one was £2,000. That's a lot of money. Plus I pay a subscription. A normal subscription for a Starlink is £70 or £60 or £70 a month, and broadband speeds around 200 or 300 meg, and you can just just pop it out in your garden and it works. It configures itself. I don't know if any of you have seen them before. I would show you, but they're fucking heavy and it's down there. But then I also pay an extra £20. So I think it's £90 a month we pay, which that extra £20 allows us to roam and set the satellite up anywhere. So normally if you just buy the service, you have to put an address where it's kept, but we paid extra to allow it to roam. Or we pay extra to allow it to roam. And what we end up with is a dedicated 200 meg line on the side of a football pitch, anywhere we are in the country. And because I bought the enhanced one, it can handle the British weather. It can handle being cloudy. It can handle rain. It can even handle snow. It's got a snow mode on it. And that's why I bought the enhanced one, because I did actually have a Starlink for myself residentially before, but I returned it because it kept switching off. Like if there was overcast, it wasn't working, and I didn't want that to happen. So that's why I bought the better one. That was an expense I didn't want to incur. I wouldn't say that clubs would do that either, but that's what we did, and it works perfectly, and it's great. And yeah, from there it then goes live to YouTube and Facebook. We can also go to Twitch or what's called an RTMP, which is essentially a configured connection that you could get it onto a website or wherever else you want it to. So yeah, that's how our internet connectivity works. Is we actually use a Starlink and we lug it around everywhere, and it's been awesome. So that's that. Moving on, let me just get rid of this. Power. So that was a concern initially. So what we've got for most of the equipment that we've got, you can plug into one of these power banks, or we've got multiple batteries. So these are the little batteries for the cameras, and we've got tons of them. I don't know, 10 of them or whatever for 2 cameras. Just swap them over at half time or whenever we want. And then we've got quite a few of these larger ones. We've never tried to run solely on those batteries, because I also have this, which is a portable power bank. It's got a solar panel with it as well. This was about 400 or 500 quid. I did shop around. I looked around for like the best ones in terms of I don't know much about power, but I was looking at the highest numbers and the best performance and the best ratings, and this little thing came out, and it was brilliant. We'd plug an extension cable into here. We'd plug different cameras into it, the YOLO box, and never had to worry about stuff. Plus, we had the batteries as well, but the batteries we were just using for the remote camera 3. Then we bought the Starlink, and it started draining this very quickly. So we had to upgrade. So I'm not going to pick it up, but it's the size of a cooler box. I don't know if I think I might have ordered it on Amazon, and I can show you it. Essentially a massive power bank that's got wheels on it, and it's so heavy. Actually, let me try and pick it up and show you. This, that's the back of it. You probably want to see the front. There you go. That thing cost 1,800 quid, but it's awesome. It can handle the satellite and probably anything else we want to plug into it. We've used it for 2 games now. I think it dropped about, I can't remember the exact percentage, about 20% across the course of the game on Sunday, which is about 5 hours of usage, I suppose, because when we set everything up, we turn it on early and then obviously shut it down later. We need to make sure everything's working. It doesn't just go on just before kickoff. But yeah, that's like the Starlink satellite and the power bank were the 2 things that I wasn't expecting and I didn't really want to pay out for. But at the same time, they're the 2 things that are the most reliable. I don't have to worry about power now at all. We don't have to worry about internet connection at all. Everything will always work. There's enough cable. There's, we can set it up anywhere, and it will work for us. So, yeah, probably it may be considered overkill. I don't know, but I can't stand technology not working, and that's why I forked out for that stuff. Qualified portable generator technician. Oh yeah, that's right. At the cheaters, I'd ordered that, but there was a delay on it, so we didn't have it for the cheater game. But they gave us a generator to use, and I was like, oh, well, they told us about they got a generator, and then it turned up, and it was brand new in the box, like never been opened. And I was like, oh, you want me to use this? So I had to figure it all out, and I had to set it all up, which we did, which was quite funny. But yeah, mine's silent now, Russ. Not that one's particularly loud, but this one doesn't make a sound. Yeah, what else have we got? So those battery packs were good. So the other thing, of note is, like I said, is rigging, and what I've started doing, because we tend to have, yeah, no smoke either. Yeah, there was loads of smoke coming out of that one, because we tend to have a lot of instances where we've got a rail in front of us if we're on an elevated view. So this weekend we're at Aztecs, and I know what the facilities are like, and they've got a balcony with a rail across it. So instead of setting up the tripod, what I've bought is loads of different clamps, so we can clamp to things. So, oh, sorry. So like this here, let me try and. That's the clamp. So that clamp would go onto a railing or a piece of scaffolding, and then attached to it is this pan and tilt mechanism, which we then sit a camera on top of. So you could sit that on a railing and just pan and tilt from there without having the tripod. Tripods can be quite cumbersome and get in your way. So that was quite a good little purchase. So you don't always need a tripod. You could probably get away with rigging. This monster here is for like huge, like chunky poles and it stretches quite wide. This one here I'm supposed to be using for so we clip one side to a tripod rig with a camera, and then the YOLO box sits on it. We've not done that yet. I need to try and do it. It's more of a one-man person setup, but then it doesn't take much to set up a second tripod and sit the YOLO box on it. So yeah, there's lots of different options when it comes to rigging. Another thing that that I literally just bought this and we haven't used it. So this one here is a piece of rigging that allows you to attach an iPod or a screen, a flat screen to. So and it's got, again, this is small rig. I try to purchase small rig stuff. It's got different, let me show you, different like slots here for different screw-ins at the top, and then it's got the shoes at the top as well. So I could effectively, like I've got the 2 audio things on the top there. I could put those on there so that, and then put a screen on here for the commentators while a producer used the YOLO box, and the commentators could see the audio and also see what's going on screen. So that there's loads of different concoctions. I just bought, I'm going to turn the YOLO box on. I'll show you actually. I don't know if it's that interesting, but it's turning on now. Oh, it's showing the reflection. I have to hold it to the side. It's not that clear at all, is it? Let's see. Oh no, it's still on a loading screen. Right, so it's saying no connection. It's waiting to connect to the internet, which it will do because in my Wi-Fi here it will connect up. I'll wait a sec for that. But what I did is I bought a screen. So this is just a standard screen that uses USB-C and HDMI. And the idea is that this will plug it, like this will sit on here on a tripod, and the commentators will be able to see the broadcast straight from the YOLO box. Let me just, so it's just loading up now, and it will, oh, I don't know if you can see. No, you can't. You'll be able to see the next bit once I set it up. It's all black. So this, the YOLO box, I can't take you through everything here, but essentially on the top, this bit here, that's the actual output that we're streaming, and then these are the different social connections at the moment. But I can put like, you can see I've actually, let me do full screen. Put like an injury break graphic up, and now if I plug, make sure I get it right, plug into here, this loads up and it mirrors, hopefully, there you go, mirrors the YOLO box. So it's not touch screen, they can't control it, but it's a nice monitor for the, for the commentators to have, and they can actually see what we're posting, and when we bring up comments and all that sort of stuff, they can react to it. So yeah, that's another little thing that we're going to start doing from next week. But yeah, rigging is really important. I'd say, spend a lot of time thinking about where you're going to set your cameras up, how many cameras you're going to have. I think one camera elevated is enough, honestly, for a club to do. You don't have to fork out so much. And like I said, I would prefer rigging clamps over tripods. But it's up to you, because obviously tripods are, there's a lot more uses for them. So like when you're finished doing the game, you can go down to the sideline and do some interviews if you wanted to, or get people to come up to you. But yeah, I found more recently that rigging's better. You travel lighter with it. There's smaller pieces, and it's a lot more versatile. The other question we had, and I think it's the last. Oh no, there's one more thing. A couple more things. So in terms of like transporting it, all this stuff, I'm still figuring that out all the time. I'm trying to get different boxes. I'm getting these plastic boxes. I ended up getting a massive 140 litre one the other day, which fits the satellite in. But there's still room on top, so I've got to figure out what to do with that room. I bought some foam. I might do some, foam inserts to keep some stuff still. I also bought this box. This was about 140 quid, and this is a proper like camera box. I open it up. I haven't even used it yet because we still like, I don't know. I'm still figuring everything out, and I didn't want to sort of like use it and then mess it up. But you can see here it's got these foam inserts. It's got 2 layers of them, and you just sort of pop out. I don't know if you can see that on screen, but they're cut into very small squares, and you just pop out the ones that you want, and then you slot in all of the different pieces of equipment, and then it's just a nice travel case. I think this is what's gonna house all the stuff that we send to the North team in the next couple of weeks. And then in terms of weather, we're not that sophisticated, but what I've purchased. So one is gazebo for hot and cold weather. So hot and rainy weather, because it's bad leaving equipment out in hot weather because it would just overheat. Obviously, in rainy weather, it gets wet. The gazebo is going to solve a lot of those problems, but at the moment, what we've got is these are purpose-made camera protector rain covers, and so they're like the weird angle shape, and then so the camera goes in here, and then it's got this. That's the camera, and then you just pull this cord, and it closes around the edge of the lens, and so everything's protected. It's a pain in the ass using it, like if you're trying to use a camera while this is on. That's why I've made a hole in this one so I could get the viewfinder out of the side of it. But yeah, we've got those plastic covers. We've got a number of them. We just sort of lay them over when it has rained, which hasn't only been a few times. We've been able to protect the equipment so far. So, and then, like I said, once we get the gazebo, it should make things a lot easier. I think that's everything. It's everything I can think of, should I say? I've also got, sorry, yeah, like a, because so what I do when we're live streaming and what the team do is like we'll, any batteries that we've used, we take and we put into a particular box or a place so we know which batteries have been used that week. I've then got this like charging station set up over here. So all the mics, all the batteries, the YOLO box, it's got this like, I think it's eight or 10 socket extension lead that I purchased, and I've got all, bought all plugs, so it's all just ready to go. Just plug everything in leading up to a game. So yeah, that's like, I suppose, sort of management stuff. Also, we bought this buggy to easily transport stuff. So it closes down into quite a small like little pillar, but it expands out into this nice large buggy. It's quite deep, and we put everything in there. Probably a couple of trips to and from the sideline to get it all out. So that, yeah, that's been really good having that buggy, and that was about, I don't know, let's have a look. It's about 100 quid. I'll find it. Hold on. I'll show you it. It's called a wagon, sorry, not a buggy. And there it is. This has been awesome. Nice wide wheels. That's it all closed up. So it closes up really nicely, fits into the car. That has been one of the best purchases we've made with all of this equipment, is the ability to transport it easily from a car park. Because what we find with different grounds is it's not always possible. Hertfordshire recently, bit of a walk from the car park, and if we'd had to lug all of that equipment back and forth, we're probably making 4 or 5 trips, and this turns it into 2. So yeah, I don't think. Oh, another thing we do is have a cooler with loads of food and drink, so that we don't have to leave the equipment for too long, or the excuses to leave the equipment a few, right? So yeah, make sure we've got food and drink for our guys. Um, yeah, that's it. Have you guys got any questions? Was there anything you want me to cover again that didn't make sense? Oh, I've gone all blurry. Just let me know. I'm trying to look over there, see what other stuff there is, if there's anything else to cover off. Oh, so that's one of them Rode microphone things, and this is the YOLO box, like the other YOLO box we just bought. So I'll just show you how big they actually are. There you go. That's a YOLO box. So you got that's the power button, SD card there, SIM card, and then you've got all of the other connectors at the top. But yeah, that's the size of one. But yeah, to protect the YOLO box and be able to use it in different shades of light. That's why we got the hood and the cage on it. So it makes it much easier to rig everything up when you've got a cage. Yeah, I think that's everything. Looks like there's no more comment, no more questions or anything. If you guys do think of anything, please feel free to reach out. We still look like, as you can probably tell, like, I'm still learning this stuff. There's still stuff that we need to get our heads around. But my advice for clubs is get a YOLO box mini, get one camera, get one of those little power banks that they're about 400 quid. Or if you've got extension leads that can sort you out, or enough batteries to last you, then fine. But oh yeah, another thing I use for the YOLO box is a power bank. It's on the sofa over there. Quite a large power bank that I use to just power the YOLO box. It's just one of them portable ones. My mum got me for Christmas one year. So yeah. but that's what I'd advise is get a YOLO box mini. There's lots of videos online on how to use them. But I'm more than willing to help you guys out, sort of get cut to it, and get to the important stuff. But they're really good machines, and like I said, you can add, like we can add, and there's layers for us to go into. We just started off with like, well, what we thought was basic, but we learned was a little bit probably over the top with the three cameras. But yeah, tried to start off with like humble beginnings and build into it. But yeah, ours will constantly improve, and then like next year when we're able to pay our guys because of the sponsorship money, um, as well as give clubs some a percentage of the profit. Um, that should yet further still extend what we can do, so we can have dedicated producer that looks after audio, that looks after graphics, that looks after adverts, replays and all of that sort of stuff, and it just makes things a lot easier. So yeah, and then ideally we'd like to do stuff like halftime shows, or at least halftime segments where content's being played, or we're live and speaking. But there's nothing stopping you, like I said, what we do at the time. At the moment, we just play a graphic. It's on loop. It's about, I don't know, 30 seconds, and it just loops. How much background noise would the guest mic pick up for someone wearing it on the sideline? Um, it, it depends. So if quite interestingly, right, these mics are smart. So if I turned one on and I just put it on a table, it would pick up. It's like searches for audio to try and pick up, right? But if it's placed closer to a source of audio, a voice, it will drop that background stuff and just focus on the voice. So while certainly louder sounds it will definitely pick up, there is an element of noise cancellation with all of these mics that make it they're pretty good when it comes to background noise from guest mics. Cool. Right, guys, I'm gonna end this one here. Unless there's any more questions, which I don't think there is, because people have had enough time now, I think. I'm gonna pack away this mess that I've made. And yeah, but if any questions. Oh, I was just thinking for stats updates. Yeah, easy. So that's another point, Christopher, for guests, the YOLO box can also have a guest sign in. So I could send you a link. So like you could be anywhere in the world, and I could send you a link, and you could come in as a guest, and it would use your microphone, your camera, what from whatever device you're using. So there are you don't have to actually be at the location to join the live stream as a guest. There is a guest option for YOLO boxes as well. Cool. Well, thank you for sticking with this. I didn't expect so many people to watch it live, so I appreciate it. And like I said, like our ethos isn't to monopolize this stuff. Our ethos is to share and help grow the game. It's as simple as that. I, if it transpired that what we did here enabled every club to live stream and we didn't have anything to live stream, I'd be pleased. Right? Means I'd get my Sundays back, but also, we've got a better value add to the sport, and hopefully, you know, the way I see Sport Tanks role in that as being, the hub of it, the center of it, and that we'll try and share everything and pull it all together so that clubs can do their thing independently, but we help let everyone else know, right? So yeah, um, yeah, hopefully this does spark up a couple of spin off a couple of teams going their own way with this stuff. It would be really good to see more people doing it. And yeah, just give us a shout. And or even if you're even at a game and you see us, like wait till we've set up, but come over. And obviously, if we're not live, come over, and we're more than happy to take people through the equipment and talk through it, and show it off. Cool. All right, guys. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for sticking with me for an hour and a half while going through this stuff. And I'll catch you guys whenever. Sunday, Monday. I seem to be doing a lot of live streams lately. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. Take it easy.